Welcome back to another episode of the Elite Investor Show. I'm James Lascara, and I'm joined today by close friend, colleague, and EIMG member, Jared Prevost. So Jared, what's interesting about your story is your first year ever of being a hard money lender, you've achieved rapid success. I've seen you grow your systems and processes also to be very efficient in a super short period of time. And I really want to dive into what are some things that you've done to make that so successful in a quick period of time. So that's what we'll be talking about today.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to diving into it. And yeah, happy to chat about it. It's been a fun ride, and a lot of my success really can be in large part thanks to you and what your team is doing and everyone in the Elite Investor group.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's dive in more specifically. So I think, you were one of the first people, right? When we first started it, it was in 2023. You were one of the first people, and at the time, I think you were either imminently closing on a flip or you had just closed on a flip.
Yeah, one of the two.
And that project didn't really go well. There was what I would say are some things that came up, maybe a little bit of unmitigated risk in that project.
Dude, I stacked risks like crazy because I didn't even know what that meant.
What does risk stacking mean?
To me, that means that something is inherently risky when you don't have a way to mitigate a risk.
Yeah.
So that can be experience, that can be build type, that can be location, that can be capital, all these types of things. And at the time, I didn't yet have the tools to really mitigate risk. So I took on a deal that was wood frame, older. Me and my partner had never flipped before. I also didn't have an active source of income because I just started another business at the exact same time, which is really not smart. But yeah, so all these types of risks, and when you stack risks, you find there's a multiplying effect in the odds of the project not going well.
Yeah.
I can attest that is true. It's not a theory.
It was a theory first and you proved it.
It was a theory, I didn't believe it, and now I'm a believer.
Okay, so that project you ended up losing a little bit of money on.
Yeah.
But you ended up selling. In that time, the market softened a little bit.
Yeah.
You had some wholesaling growth, you had some experience that you were trying to do remotely in Washington State, and you had some level of success with that, but it was an ongoing challenge, right? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, the part that wouldn't be accurate is some success. I would say a little bit of success maybe. So it was actually crazy. This is honestly, in my opinion, kind of a God thing. So the first deal I put under contract, I was being an absolute savage on the phone. I was hitting it every single day, built all these fancy automations and systems to maximize my outreach. Mm-hmm. So I was crushing it there. First deal I put under contract, honestly stacked risks with that as well. Gave the seller a private note that I was gonna get paid back at closing. Deal blows up, trying to assign terms out of state and relying on a partner. My partner was actually great. There was no problems with that. But so I almost got into a lawsuit on that deal.
Okay.
Whole thing falls apart, really messy. I almost don't get my small private loan back.
Yeah.
But then what was kind of crazy, man, about at least a full month after I stopped prospecting, once I knew, I was like, yeah, this door's closed. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I got the easiest deal I've ever had in my life. Literally this guy, I had one phone call with him. I was only ever on the phone with him one time for maybe 5 minutes. And property is in a good area of Spokane. It's completely distressed. He had owned it for 3 years. It had been vacant, and he couldn't sell it because of a divorce. And he was like, I'll let you know when my divorce is over. Mm-hmm. Dude, I followed up with him a dozen times, never heard a word from him. It was my lowest, this is not gonna convert. One day he texts me, he's like, okay, I can sell now. And I was like, all right. I got on, it was maybe 2 phone calls to lock it up at $100K. And then I just gave the contract over to Jesse Bibby, connected me with the folks who run the largest wholesale operation there, the Easy Home Buyer guys. Just hey, got a contract, South Hill and Spokane, $100K, see what you can do. And actually, I thought I was gonna get a really nice fee. They sold it originally for $150, had 3 buyers back out, and they moved it at, I think, $130. So I got a $15K check, which was exactly what I needed to basically be able to fix up my car, take care of some things, and transition into lending. It was kind of wild, dude. It was not a me thing at all. But that was my only success doing that one deal.
Okay, but it was a short period of time then.
Yeah. I was running that November through after the almost lawsuit thing, which happened right around New Year's. Mm-hmm. I was just I don't know, I couldn't pick up the phone anymore. It was a mental blockage. So it was only really 2 months of super aggressive outreach. And then I ended up converting one in maybe around January or February.
Okay. And so it was around that time you're like, I got to do something else.
Yeah.
Okay. So you found, kind of hit your stride with hard money.
Yeah.
And then that's really taken off.
Yeah, yes. Basically, I spent all of my money, literally all of my money was either into this flip or marketing expenses for the wholesale operation. Because like, even if you run it yourself, I still had $2,000 to $3,000 a month and systems, data, all this kind of stuff. So dude, I like literally didn't have any money left. And AJ Weed was my partner on the flip.
Yeah.
Like, awesome dude, great lender as well, great lender. He was like, dude, like your personality, man, it just makes your strengths, it makes so much more sense for you to be in hard money. I was like, dude, you're right. And then they also told me like, hey, you can get a base for a couple months. And I was like, dude, I need that so bad right now. Okay. So that was part of the reason, but no, and we had actually talked about this when I was considering transitioning. Just like my skill sets, what's important to me, what fires me up, what I'm good at.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like I'm pretty good at sales, but almost nothing else makes sense for me to be wholesaling.
Yeah.
And so that's really when I made the transition happen February 1st of this year.
Okay. What are some things that you've done specifically in the hard money business that have really moved the needle for you?
Okay, biggest thing. So one of the things I hated about wholesaling was like, I'm picking up the phone and bothering people. Like I don't really have a lot of value add and they don't want to be helped. And then when I got into lending, I looked at what everyone else was doing. They're pretty much doing the same thing. Like how many times have you just got a random phone call from an agent or lender who's kind of just like, hey James, like, how are you? Are you doing deals right now? Like just a total waste of your time, doesn't help you move the needle in your business at all.
It happened when I was pulling in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I stay on permanent and do not disturb on my phone. So like you can leave voicemail, but I don't like calling me during the day. I'll call back if it's somebody I know or if it's like legit a number and we can communicate. But man, it's a lot of spam. So that happened literally pulling in today.
Dude, total disrespect of time. And I hate my time being disrespected. So like when people do that to me, in my mind, they're like this. Like their rapport, how much I trust them, how much I respect them is like very low, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So don't do that to me, please, unless you want to talk about a deal. So I was like, how do I scale in a way that I can provide value? And that is the secret sauce for how I've been able to find success.
Okay.
And so I looked at what do I have to offer? Okay, what do I know? I know Tampa Bay like the back of my hand. I know this market really, really well. I know what a deal looks like. Mm-hmm. I know a bunch of wholesalers who are really solid, and that's pretty hard to find. And so I was like, how can I combine these three things to provide value for the people who can bring me deals, mostly wholesalers, and then the actual borrowers? And so when I was thinking about that, I was like, all right, I have to really step it up with my content game. I need to commit to that. That's how I got the idea also for the weekly deal drop.
Yeah, which is super valuable.
Yeah, super, super valuable. I've moved 5 wholesale deals this year. 4 wholesalers, got them a bunch more like, hey, Jared Prevost, qualified borrowers. I know all of them on a first name basis, and I'm gonna give you the green light if it's good to go. So I think that right there has been like my biggest secret weapon is providing value on a mass scale, which is also why like I'm crazy about connecting people. Mm-hmm. I've like, the more you connect people, it kind of compounds. Mm-hmm. And so whenever there's a solution, 99% of the time I can't make money with it. But if I can help somebody in some way, then it's like, all right, like for instance, if I help you with something, you might talk to 1,000 people that I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that one of those 1,000 people is like, hey James, who's a hard money lender? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, this guy actually recently just randomly helped me. And that's how I get a lot of business.
Yeah.
I don't cold call ever.
You don't cold call ever?
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. There's a hidden power. There's a secret power in doing that. So it seems to be working out pretty well for you. So a large part of how you've been able to become more efficient in your business, and I've been on the receiving end of this, and I'm pretty impressed, is like you have really, really dialed in processes. It's like everyone kind of goes through these gates when they're one of your borrowers or one of your clients.
Yes.
I would love to just dive into that a little bit more and just like hear you talk about what you've set up and how like the automations that you've managed to do. Because I think there's kind of a sweet spot where that can be applied to different industries too. Like it's not unique just to hard money lending. But what's interesting is it saves you a ton of time on relatively low value tasks, so you can apply that time to other high value areas.
Yeah, 100%. And what I'll do, because I want to make this highly applicable to anybody who's listening in so that you can get value out of it, I'm not going to dive super deep into like, hey, this is my process A, my process B, because I have a lot of formal processes and a lot of micro processes.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of formal processes and then a lot of micro processes. So really what happens, okay, so I start hard money lending. I literally don't know anything. I've never even been involved in a loan in my entire life.
Okay.
When I got in, I was like, can someone explain to me like how this works top to bottom? Because I have no idea. That was actually a problem for a while because it made it hard to sell. But once I figured that out, every single time I got frustrated, and I get very frustrated when I feel like I have to spend time on something that doesn't move the needle in my business. Every single time that happened, I write down a task, like automate, outsource, or create a system. Okay, so some of that is I have a bunch of email templates because I get the same question multiple times. Okay, solution, intro email, same one every single time, and I have a folder with all the attachments on there. Bunch of resources, helpful links, etc. I'll get a bunch of the same text messages. Like you actually asked me this weekend, like, hey, I need a really quick quote on a DSCR just to see if this deal pencils. And within 5 seconds, all I type in my phone is DSCR purchase. And then it pulls up my whole short link, like this is everything I need.
Yeah.
I send that to you instantly and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, cool, this guy's on top of it.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is a little bit of a secret in sales is you're familiar with the concept speed to lead, right? Like the first time you get a lead, you need to call them within 30 seconds. So one of the things I think that a lot of people mess up in sales is they're like, all right, speed to lead, I got to them right away. That's cool. Speed to lead needs to be a lifestyle. It needs to be speed to every single time someone reaches out to you, which I know you're also really good at. So like, how do I be insanely fast every time somebody reaches out to me? Well, a lot of times it's like, received, I'll get back to this shortly.
Yeah.
And then I screenshot it on my phone and I go through my screenshots to make sure I don't forget. And then I don't have to put it in my CRM, all this stuff. Okay. Or a lot of times it's literally just auto text, like not auto text, but shortcut text message. Because I get the same like 10 to 12 questions all the time, right?
Yeah.
Create a system for it. It takes forever to type it out.
Yeah. So you use hotkeys a lot on your iPhone, or you don't use iPhone, so you use hotkey.
This guy says he's my friend.
I caught it. So you have a hotkey set up on your non-iPhone cell phone, and you have like a different list of hotkeys, like DSCR purchase. It gives a list of all the questions that you need to ask to a borrower, who then they can get you that info to proceed with like moving forward. Yeah, exactly right. Another one I use all the time is when I get a lot of wholesalers that will schedule calls with me through Instagram. By the way, if you're using Instagram for your business, you need to make that a funnel for someone to make a very clear action that can result in a relationship or business. Agree. So the thing that I funnel people down to is schedule a 15-minute call with me. So I get a lot of wholesalers that I don't know. They schedule that call with me. Conversation is pretty much the same every time, or it's text message. It's like, hey, how can we work together? Do you have buyers? Like some questions about what we do and don't do. Like we don't require access, which is huge. We don't have limitations on wholesale fees, which is awesome. I funded multiple 6-figure fees this year. No questions asked, right? But there's like a series of the same 3 questions every time. Like, hey, do you have buyers? Like, can we work together? And so I have a whole text message about, hey, this is my typical agreement with wholesalers, like how you can get paid referring me business. But then on the flip side, if I bring you, one of my borrowers as a buyer, like a fee would be nice, right? And hey, this is how you add a deal to the weekly deal drop. And yeah, it's awesome when I can get like 2 or 3 of those in a row in the same conversation, because I look like I'm the most on top of it guy ever, but in reality, I typed like 5 things. Yeah, but it's truly you. It's truly you, like doing the hotkeys, so that like these are all things that they're common questions people ask you, and so you just have like pre-planned responses in your own words. So I mean, I just think that's efficient personally. Yeah, it's not like it's AI or like an auto text. It's a very different feel. It makes people think like when you're really fast and thorough, people think your competence is extremely high, which is important. Yeah. So let's talk more about your deal drop. Like I've seen that be a huge resource for people. Like I've talked to people who've been buyers on it. You know, I've talked to wholesalers who can get access to it. So let's talk about the deal drop. Like, what is it? Why should someone be on it? What value you're providing to the marketplace? And like, how are you also involved in that value exchange a little bit? Yeah. So if we circle back to the question earlier of like, you know, creating systems and things of that nature, what I would end up seeing is wholesalers, especially in the group, EIMG, especially people who are mostly focused on acquisition, maybe they're getting like 1 deal a month or whatever. They're not big enough to have their whole dispo team. Be like, hey man, do you have any borrowers that would like this?
And what I could do is every time I get a request, put together an email, make it all customized, and send that out. Extremely inefficient and probably doesn't really do justice to actually getting eyes on the deal. It's like, man, how do I systematize this to provide the most value with the least amount of input from me and like set the very clear expectations? And that's where I came up with that idea. And at first, it was me doing everything, right? Which is, it's actually very time consuming to like type information for like 20 to 25 deals, make sure the pictures link is right, all this stuff. It honestly takes a while.
Yeah.
So now I have a virtual assistant who she already knows everything. We have a system, it automatically, there's a rule that sends it to a specific folder in my email inbox. And we go through and do the whole thing. And it's really cool because it's grown my relationship with wholesalers a lot. They're pretty inspired to send me business when I'm endorsing their deals and then putting on Instagram that, hey, look, I'm a local lender and I like this wholesaler and I trust them.
But you do a bit of vetting and also analysis on the deal before you add it. Like you make sure those deals are actually pretty verified deals instead of just like throwing anything on there that somebody will toss your way.
Yeah, okay, so on that point, I do not have time to comp every deal. But what I'll do is the first time somebody wants to earn a spot on there, like, hey, send me the A to B agreement. I want to make sure this is your deal. I'm going to comp it. If your deal sucks, I'm going to tell you, sorry, like, I don't think that you're a good fit for this.
Yeah.
If your deal is solid and I'm like, okay, this is like, I see this fitting somebody's buy box.
Yeah.
Then I send it. And actually the reason that I do that now, because for me, it's more about verifying the relationship than the specific deal. For instance, if you hit me up about a deal, I'm not really worried about the numbers being good.
Yeah.
Right? If some guy who I know has never done a deal sends me a deal, I'm like pretty concerned about the numbers. Right? So it's more relationship verified than deal verified. But there's 2 points on that. So I'm a lot more careful now because before when I was growing it, I was like, oh, you look like you know what you're doing. Let me endorse your deal. So someone we both know, turns out they're just throwing stuff at the wall and marketing other people's deals. So at that point, I was like, all right, whoa, I got to be more careful about this because I'm having an impact on who's going to look at these deals, right? Yeah, don't trust everything you see. But the second point is one of the things that I'm just now incorporating is because I'm getting like 20 to 30 deals, I'm getting the sense that it's like, oh, it's so many deals that people are like, I don't want to sort through all this stuff. And like in reality, if you have a good buy box, you just look at zip codes that you like and you offer on that stuff, right? But I'm like, man, for people that really want me to take a deep dive into it, verify it, and make sure it gets maximum amount of eyes, I just started offering a sponsored section.
Yeah.
So like if you want me to sponsor your deal, you can buy the spot. It's only $250. And I will actually go through comp it, provide my opinion of value, and any other things to note. Like for instance, somebody sent me a deal. They were considering sponsoring the deal or getting the deal sponsored by me. And I was looking at it and I was like, dude, okay. Yeah, everything looks fine, but you're on a double yellow road and there's a huge like Jewish mosque or something right across the street.
Do you realize what you just like?
Yeah, I know. But
right.
at first I thought it was a mosque, then I remember he told me it was Jewish, but.
Temple?
Yeah, yes, a temple.
All right.
Don't cancel me, please. Okay, so there's like a giant temple across the street and I'm like, dude, are you trying to sell this as a flip? Like, come on. And so you see a lot of people put deals out like that, and the amount of wholesalers that never check Google Maps is like kind of interesting because you wouldn't know unless you check satellite or Street View.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to like step in a little bit more and be like, hey, these are 2 or 3 deals we think are really solid that I've already vetted. And if somebody asks me to do that and I don't like the deal, I'm just gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna sponsor it. Like, I don't care if you give me money. Like, I'm not putting my name on this.
Well, you got to realize too, like when someone sponsors it in your, I'll call it a newsletter, in your weekly newsletter, and they don't get a result, ultimately that's kind of like a one-way street, and they're likely not to be repeat, sponsors. And so if it is a good deal and you're able to verify that and add it in, that's value exchange now.
Yeah.
And that's repeatable.
And the other thing too, man, is if somebody that I know, like, and trust sends me a deal and I'm like, oh, this is a deal. I will literally call every single borrower and I'm like, this is exactly what they're looking for. Because I kind of know who's hungry and who's not, who just bought something, who didn't. So Anthony Terrell actually sent me a deal. Oh my God, dude, this is a great deal. It's like this just such a low risk deal and the numbers were really good.
Nice.
Dude, I picked up the phone and I was like, I called everybody. And guess what? When your lender calls you about a deal, people's guard is so much lower than, like, wholesalers will try to sell anything.
Yeah.
If I pick up the phone and I tell one of my borrowers, like, you have to get in on this ASAP because this is going to be gone.
Yeah.
The level of like trust and believability is a lot different because I do not like funding bad deals. They never go smoothly. It's a total waste of time. So I don't typically start a file unless it's actually solid, which back to your question of like, how do you scale? How do you be efficient? Dude, most hard money lenders, they will offer terms on anything. Like they don't care if it's a terrible deal. And that's fine, but stretch that out over time, what happens? Okay, well now you've got a bunch of borrowers that buy bad deals, which you'd be shocked how many people stay in business buying very marginal deals, do like 10 deals that don't make any money. And that's now your client base, and every single time you have problems with value, every single time you have to be like, hey, we can't do the terms that we offered you. And one of the things I was very intentional about in building this business, it's like early on I did less loans because I was just like, hey, this guy's an idiot, I don't want to work with him, or this deal isn't good, I'm saying no. So I said no a lot more. And now, like this month, I'm gonna do likely between 12 and 14 loans.
Just in 1 month?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's all gonna close in like month of December, or?
Yes.
Nice,
Yeah,
congratulations.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But pretty much every single loan in there is clean and it's a good borrower.
Yeah.
And I know you know what this is like, but it only takes one bad deal or bad client for you to spend literally 50% of your time.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy how like one, you know, I don't want to call it like a bad apple. I don't think these people that need a little bit more time, they're not necessarily like bad people, but yeah, that is kind of unique. It's like a disproportionately small percentage of client base or colleagues or whatever that you work with that do end up consuming like quite a bit more time.
Yep.
And in all fairness, like I would say, when they don't need to.
Right.
Right.
And imagine trying to scale a business where you've got 3 of those clients at one time.
Was that you?
No, that wasn't me, but
because you said no?
Yeah, but for instance, there's another lady at the same company as me, and we started around the same time. She'd already been in lending for a while.
Yeah.
And those were all of her clients, dude.
Just kind of like nightmare type?
Yeah, dude. Jacksonville? No, dude. Red flag. I've yet to meet a good borrower in Jacksonville. I'm sure they exist. I haven't found them. So it's just like, there's actually a few people at my company that are like that. You look at the people that they're doing business with and they're like always like super, super stressed out. Their deals are never going smoothly and they're spending all this time. I'm like, hey, look, man, like this morning, dude, I wasn't up and beyond my computer until like 9:30, 9:45 because I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to take my dog for a walk, spend Bible time in the morning. And then in the evening, like I'm going to have time to go to your meetup, right? And guess what? I'm still doing that like 10 to 14 loans, whatever it is this month. Why? Because I have good clients, right? Because I was intentional about making sure I'm doing good deals with good clients because it's hard in the start, but you're able to scale up without like losing your sanity and your quality of life, which for a lot of people, loan officer specific, do not have good quality of life. Why is that? Because there's really high stress. Why is that? Because they're doing not great deals.
Yeah, like marginal quality and chasing to get to the closing table.
Exactly. Yep, saying yes to every opportunity that crosses your desk. It's a trap, and you don't really, in the short term, there's benefit. In the long term, you start to feel the pain, and it's hard to get out of that.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, like, maybe I was just lucky.
That was my next question. Like, was that planned or was that lucky, you think?
It was never something that I was intentional, like, this is how I'm going to build my business. But it only took a few times where there were like kind of messy deals, especially when I didn't really know what I was doing at first. More had to do with me not knowing like potential pitfalls yet. And so after doing a few of those, I was like, man, this is horrible. I hate it when deals don't go smoothly.
Yeah.
And I had a processor who like no longer is with the company, and it's like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. She was doing all my files and they weren't going smoothly. And one of the things that I kind of equate myself to, and I would imagine that an agent would kind of have a similar mindset. I kind of look at myself as a Sherpa. Like, there's so
I didn't expect that. like maybe like a tour guide or maybe like a facilitator.
No.
Like
you gotta remember,
I am a Sherpa in the mountains, in the Himalayan mountains, and I'm carrying that stuff on my back.
From a guy who likes to climb mountains.
All right, Sherpa. So let's
Sherpa. So okay, imagine like it's your first time ever guiding someone up Mount Everest. Like there's so many crevices people could fall into. There's so many like traps and so many things you need to be aware of that could kill the deal. All right, so I look at it and like the top of the mountain is people getting funded. And like along the way, I know all the potential pitfalls. And so my job is to be like, yo, do not do that. Like we're not doing that. Make sure to do X, Y, Z. And then if you listen to me, you get the money, we have a smooth experience, you're on top of Mount Everest.
What are the pitfalls?
Okay, couple of pitfalls, really common. Do not choose your insurance agent. Please work with the one that I recommend. 50% of the time when deals don't fund on time, it's because somebody just doesn't listen to me and they want to shop insurance. If you were in a different state than Florida, I'll say, hey, go for it. My experience personally is that most insurance agents just elect to not carefully read our requirements. And then I get sent a policy. This actually delayed a closing with a broker. I was like, dude, use my insurance agent. Nope. And so that's a really big pitfall. Another really big pitfall, working with big name wholesalers that I tell people to avoid. That ends up in a lot of messy deals. My experience with almost all those deals is that they fizzle out, they don't go anywhere, numbers don't work, there's not transparency in the transaction. Meets and bounds properties, legal description not being lot and block adds a lot of variables, potential for easement issues, etc. Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff, man, but that's kind of just some things that come right off the dome.
High level stuff?
Yeah, high level stuff. I mean, if I wanted to tell you, hey, here's how to do a deal really smoothly, which, by the way, the people who've listened to me have made money on literally some of the most straightforward transactions of all time.
Yeah.
If you want a really clean deal, okay, hit me up. I'm gonna send you all an introduction email with all my walkthrough tutorials. Hey, this is how you do everything. This is how you be prepared. And then I'm gonna tell you, hey, make sure you have your LLC set up, you have your EIN, you're working on your business credit already so you can get access to that 0% interest money to help you with the reno. Do all those things first. And then buy a deal from someone on the deal drop that I personally know. Why? Because when it comes time when they're considering an offer, I call them up and I'm like, yo, this guy's solid, go forward with them, which I've done multiple times. We lock them in, smooth communication the whole time. Use a title company I know, whether it's a Titan Title or Albatross or a local company like that. Use a local wholesaler I know, and those transactions are almost always, boom, seamless and usually pretty good deals.
Let's talk about going local for a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like, because everything you just mentioned was like very local. You're local, wholesaler's local, title local. You've been a huge supporter of our mastermind, and I appreciate that. It's also allowed you to really connect. It's allowed so much value exchange I've seen for you, but also like that paradigm that you talked about at the beginning of our chat today about like, hey, when you provide enough value, it comes back around, and I've seen you be the recipient of that, which I'm very like overjoyed to see that in your business, because now you're thriving where, you know, a year ago, like you felt you were in a season challenge, no question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. So like, who do you think is the right kind of person to like be in the mastermind? Because I don't think it's right for everybody. Who is it right for? Who is it not right for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, this is actually good because you've asked me on occasion about certain people who are interested in joining. I think there's a couple of things. One, if you're not doing deals in Tampa Bay, it's not that you couldn't make it worth it, but it's gonna be tough. And some of the people who have left the group, it was for that reason. Like maybe they live here and they don't do deals here. That's gonna make it pretty tough. So you're trying to build your business in Tampa Bay, do deals here. Mindset wise, like I wouldn't even say that you need to be making a lot of money right now, but you need to have the mindset that you're buying a shovel and you're gonna use the shovel to dig, right? And so I think the people that join the group, some people I feel like just join mastermind groups so that they can say they're in the group, right? Which I guess is a cool flex, right? Like, I don't know. But then other people are like, I'm gonna join with the intention of like understanding that I don't know everything. I have a lot to learn, and I don't know everybody. I have a lot of people to connect with, and not just connect with, a lot of people to provide value to. So for instance, like for me personally, I've probably attended 90% of the Saturday calls. I think that's pretty fair.
90%?
Yeah, I think so.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it is pretty high. And guess what? Some of the Saturday calls, actually, I've gotten value from almost every single Saturday call and implemented something from almost every single Saturday call into my business. So I've saved multiple deals by being able to pull the deals out of flood zones. Most people that are crushing it like don't know how to do that. And I know that because I posted it on Instagram, like, what, you can do that? Yeah, man, you have things to learn too. I don't care how long you've been doing this. A lot of the people that have been on the Saturday call, I ended up working with in some capacity. Like I bought shovels from them and then applied that in my business. To simplify, I think you need to be doing deals here. You need to be eager to provide value to other people and meet other people. And then you need to understand that you're buying a shovel and you like actually want to use that to dig and get some value and grow your business.
For sure. For sure. Who do you think it's not right for?
I think it's not right for somebody who thinks that they already know everything they need to know. That kind of mentality kind of closes you off to growth. And in real estate, like it would be, I mean, I think you could do this business for 60 years and not know everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also changing. It's a moving target, right?
Yes.
I'll give you an example. We have 2 projects right now for development, and we submitted a design exception. We're like, we want to mimic exactly what 2 doors down, the exact DE and site plan that they just did. They're like, oh no, we've changed the criteria in the last 6 months. That was a moving target. So now we have to like,
wow.
Yeah, that's a good example of how the environment can shift, and you need to stay in tune with what is actually happening in your market. So I think like doing deals in your market, like that's where it really provides a lot of benefit.
Yeah, another thing for people who are just not a good fit, when I think about some of the people that like kind of just fizzled out, people who are not, like don't have a high degree of integrity, because here's what happens, like, okay, if you've got, let's just say you're smelting gold, right?
Smelting gold?
You're smelting gold.
Is that where you melt it back into a bigger brick?
Yeah, you're melting it, right? So that actually.
Why isn't it just called melting?
Because it sounds fancier. So this is biblical, like as a synonym to melting metal, right?
Okay.
Melting gold, melting silver, whatever.
Smelting gold.
Okay, so I look at the group, smelting. So I look at the group and I'm like, dang dude, this is like a group of a lot of very high integrity people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of trust. And the people that like join the smelting pot and they don't have that, they end up leaving, because you can't hang around with a bunch of people who are high integrity, doing really good business, being super ethical, and not match that and like stay. It doesn't work. So like there's been a few people that were in the group briefly and then left, and you look back on it and you're like, yeah man, like they just weren't, maybe they weren't outright being unethical or anything like that, but they weren't at like this high degree of trust and integrity that most people in the group are in, and it just like, they just don't last, I guess.
In terms of qualifying to make sure it's high caliber people only that end up coming in, and I tell people this, I'm like, if you're not serious about collaborating with other top people that are in the Tampa market, and if this is not important for you, like there is not an invitation. There was someone who had not done, and like money is not everything. I'm very much a purpose over profits kind of person, but I also think being in tune with actual reality is super important. That's like one of the highest forms of integrity, like be real.
Yes.
And somebody was like, they had recently formed a partnership. They had moved from a different state to the Tampa Bay area. They were doing like a lot of spec builds, and they had 0 realized revenue. And they're like, we have $15 million of revenue, like calculated out. We might be a $50 million business in 18 months. And like got on the phone with this person, and they thought their real estate expertise and entrepreneurship experiences was 10 out of 10. And I'm like, we're not a good fit. Yeah. We're not a good fit. You're telling me you have nothing else to learn. I don't really associate well with that type of person, because I'm a lifelong learner. I have something to learn from absolutely everybody, regardless of your industry or experience. And that might not be direct real estate expertise. That might be a way to market or a way to communicate or a different way of selling. But yeah, stuff like that where people are either like, they're not serious about actually growing their business. It's not important for them to want to collaborate to get access to better deals or resources or new ideas even. And the third is like when people are just not open to growth, it's not a good fit. It's not a good fit.
It's like those are literally the 3 benefits. Why would you even be interested if you don't
why are we on this call? Right. So what do you want from me?
I think those are literally the people that are like, oh, this is the cool local group. I want to like stamp of approval. I want to be able to be like, yeah, I'm in the group. I think that might be the reason for some people, which clearly it's not a good fit.
No, I'd just rather tell them no. I'd rather keep it how it is with like a low-key group of savages than just have it be 1,000 people, of which 900 are not even doing deals. Like,
You should just tell them like, hey, look, Seems to me like you just want the brand, but you don't actually want to be in the group. So I'll sell you one of these Elite Investor hats for $25. You can tell people you can wear it around. You don't have to tell people you're in the group. They'll just assume that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to join.
Yeah. All right. Well, any closing thoughts as we kind of wrap up our chat today?
Yeah, I think as I reflect over just where I've gone from in the last 12 months to here, I think one of the biggest takeaways I have is like, wow, when you get around the right people and you implement the things that people who are further ahead of you are teaching you to do, and you just put in the inputs, like, dude, 12 months, you can absolutely change your life.
Yeah.
Like my life is very, very different than it was 12 months ago. In so many ways, dude. Everything from like, I got a dog from EIMG, love that dog. I got so much more clarity on like how I want to spend my time, like so much more clarity on my superpowers. Like obviously I'm making more money now too, which is cool. I figured out how to buy real estate with none of my own money. Just all these things. I'm like, man, this was less than 12 months. I mean, I joined the group November of last year.
Was it November?
Yeah. Was it November or October?
I think it was October.
But really in 12 months, you can just absolutely change your life. And when I think about the return on what I invested into the group, like, dude, I've at least 10x'd. At least 10x'd.
Yeah, it's good.
And that's just like, you know, money, right? But the other stuff like quality of life, clarity, purpose, all these other things that ultimately matter more have also come with it. And so I think if maybe if you're not happy with where you're at right now, or you like where you're going but you're frustrated, it's just like, dude, 12 months, commit to figuring these things out, getting in the right room, and implementing the things that you learn, and like everything can change so dramatically.
I appreciate you saying that. I think there's also something to be said about like building some momentum with little efficiencies. I feel like little efficiencies implemented at scale can lead to a total dynamic shift in how well your business is actually running like on a day-to-day basis.
100%. Yeah, 1% a day compounded is crazy growth.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate you joining us today, man. Good session. Yeah.
Look at this firm handshake.